Stop thinking the smartphone war is just a two-horse race. While you are busy arguing about green bubbles versus blue bubbles, there is a silent battle happening in the background that involves three other operating systems quietly rewriting the rules of how the world connects. Most people think the choice is simple. You either buy an iPhone or you buy a Samsung or Pixel. That's it. That's the whole market. But that is actually a massive lie. There are billions of devices running software that isn't made by Apple or Google. And the companies building them aren't just trying to make phone calls. They are trying to control your fridge, your watch, your car, and even your national security. Today, we are going to tear apart the 5 big mobile operating systems: Android, iOS, KaiOS, HarmonyOS, and Tizen. We are going to look at the giants, the survivors, and the ones that failed but refused to die. By the end of this, you'll realize the phone in your hand is just a tiny piece of a much scarier puzzle.
Let's start with the one that is statistically probably in your hand right now: Android. If iOS is a walled garden, Android is a public park. Sometimes it's beautiful and sunny, and sometimes there is trash everywhere and a raccoon fighting a stray dog. Here is the thing about Android that most people forget. It wasn't supposed to be a phone OS. Back in the early 2000s, the creators were pitching it as software for digital cameras, but they saw the writing on the wall, pivoted to phones, and got bought by Google. The genius of Android is that Google doesn't actually make money selling the software. They give it away for free. That sounds crazy, right? Why would a company spend billions developing something just to give it away? Because Google is an advertising company. They don't want your money for the software, they want your eyeballs. They want you using Google Search, Gmail, and YouTube. This strategy worked terrifyingly well. Today, roughly 71% of all smartphones on Earth run on Android. That is over 3 billion active devices. Because it is open, any manufacturer can use it. Samsung, Xiaomi, OnePlus, even that weird obscure brand you see on Amazon for $50, they all run Android. But this freedom comes with a massive headache called fragmentation. Because there are thousands of different screen sizes, processors, and cameras, apps can be glitchy. An app that works perfectly on a Galaxy S24 might crash instantly on a budget Motorola. It's the Wild West. You get total customization, you can change your launcher, sideload apps, and basically do whatever you want. But you sacrifice that feeling of polish. It's messy, it's loud, but it runs the world. Then, on the other side of the fence, we have iOS. If Android is the chaotic city, iOS is a gated community with private security guards and a strict homeowners association. Apple has a completely different philosophy. They believe the user shouldn't have to think. You shouldn't have to manage your RAM, or clear your cache, or worry about viruses. You turn it on, and it works. But the price you pay for that convenience is control. You don't really own the software on your iPhone. You are just renting the experience. Apple controls everything. They make the phone, the chip inside the phone, the software running on the chip, and the app store you buy games from. This is called vertical integration, and it makes them an absolute money printing machine. Even though Android has 71% of the market share, Apple actually makes more profit. In the US, they are dominating with nearly 60% of the market. The reason people stay isn't just because the phone is good, it's because leaving is painful. This is the ecosystem trap. You have iMessage, FaceTime, AirDrop, and iCloud. If you switch to Android, you break all those connections. You become the green bubble in the group chat. Apple knows this. They rely on social pressure to keep you buying iPhones. It's brilliant marketing, but it also creates a stagnant tech world, where the only two options seem to be Google's data mining or Apple's expensive cage. And this brings us to the massive problem. When two companies control 99% of the market, innovation starts to die. Think about it. When was the last time a phone update truly blew your mind? 5 years ago? It's mostly just better cameras and faster screens now. But what happens when you aren't a wealthy American or European? What if you can't afford an iPhone or even a decent Android? Or what happens when the United States government decides your company is a threat and bans you from using Google? This is where the story gets dark, and where the other three players come into the game. Let's talk about the most successful operating system you have probably never heard of: KaiOS. Imagine you are a farmer in rural India. You make a few dollars a day. You need to check crop prices, transfer money, and maybe use WhatsApp. You cannot afford a smartphone, but a basic flip phone, a dumb phone, is useless for the internet. Enter KaiOS. This system was built to run on hardware that costs as little as $10 or $20. It looks like the old Nokia interface from 2005. but it has a secret weapon. It runs modern apps. It has YouTube, Facebook, Google Maps, and WhatsApp, but it runs them on tiny screens with physical keypads. It started from the ashes of the failed Firefox OS. A company took that dead code and optimized it for low-power phones. The explosion happened when an Indian billionaire, Mukesh Ambani, launched the JioPhone. He practically gave the phones away for free to get people on his 4G network. Suddenly, millions of people who had never been online were surfing the web on KaiOS. At one point, KaiOS was the second most popular mobile OS in India, beating iOS by a mile. It proves that you don't need a supercomputer in your pocket to connect to the world. It's not flashy, it's not fast, but for the next billion users coming online, it is a lifeline. Now, let's look at the most controversial entry on this list, HarmonyOS by Huawei. This exists for one reason, survival. A few years ago, Huawei was on track to beat Samsung and become the #1 phone maker in the world. Then, the US government dropped the ban hammer. They accused Huawei of spying for the Chinese government, something Huawei denies, and blocked them from using American technology. That meant no Google Play Store, no Gmail, no YouTube, and potentially no Android. Most companies would have died. Huawei didn't. They went into their labs and accelerated their backup plan. They call it HarmonyOS, or Hongmeng OS in China. Huawei claims this is a brand new microkernel operating system, completely different from Android. Critics and tech experts, however, have looked at the code and found that a lot of it, at least in the beginning, was just a heavy skin over open source Android. But here is where it gets interesting. HarmonyOS isn't just for phones. The goal is the Internet of Everything. The idea is that the same software runs on your phone, your smart oven, your car dashboard, and your fitness tracker. It allows for super devices. You could be on a video call on your phone, walk into your living room, and swipe the call onto your TV instantly, without pairing or lag. Today, there are hundreds of millions of devices running HarmonyOS, mostly in China. It is a grim reminder that in the tech world, software is political. If a country gets cut off from Silicon Valley, they will build their own walls.
Finally, we have the tragedy of the group, Tizen. This was Samsung's dream. Samsung hates relying on Google. They are the biggest phone maker in the world, yet they have to beg Google for software updates. So years ago, they poured money into Tizen. It was supposed to be the Android killer. They tried launching Tizen smartphones, like the Samsung Z1, in emerging markets. They were okay. But they had a fatal flaw: no apps. No developers wanted to build apps for a third operating system when Android and iOS already took all their time. The app gap killed Tizen phones before they even started. But Tizen didn't die. It shifted. If you have a Samsung Smart TV, you are using Tizen right now. If you had an older Galaxy Watch, that was Tizen. It became the best operating system for things that aren't phones. However, even that story has a sad ending. Samsung eventually realized that even for watches, they needed Google's app ecosystem. Recently, they merged their watch software back with Google's Wear OS. Tizen is now mostly resigned to living inside your television and your smart fridge, watching you eat cheese at 3 a.m. It serves as a warning. Having billions of dollars isn't enough to beat a monopoly. You need the developers on your side. So, where does that leave us? We have the two kings, Android and iOS, sitting on their thrones, printing money. We have KaiOS fighting in the trenches to bring the internet to the developing world. We have HarmonyOS building a bunker to survive a trade war. And we have Tizen, living on as a zombie in our home appliances. The scary truth is that building a new mobile operating system today is almost impossible. The barriers are too high. We are locked into this duopoly for the foreseeable future. But keep an eye on those rebels. As politics shift and technology moves from phones to glasses or neural implants, the kings might fall, and the underdogs are waiting for their shot.